What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I'm your host. I am Caitlin Kenna Smith, and today's episode is a special one because I've got Shawn Hawley back on the podcast for round two. We recorded this on Veterans Day, which feels pretty fitting because Shawn is a veteran, a competitive bodybuilder, a coach, and a huge advocate for men's mental health. So this conversation hits on a different level. It's also Men's Mental Health Month. We get into the stigma a lot of men still feel around asking for help, the nobody cares, work harder mentality, what it's really like living with PTSD, and how being strong has turned into suffering in silence for so many guys. We also talk about the other side almost nobody sees, the mental load of being a military spouse, sending your person off on deployment, sleeping in a quiet house, taking on all the extra responsibilities, and trying not to fall apart while everyone tells you how strong you are. Quick heads up, in this episode we do talk about suicide, depression, and some heavy experiences from the military, so please take care of yourself while you listen. If this hits home for you or somebody you love, I hope this reminds you of one thing. You're not weak for struggling, you're not a burden for needing help, and you are absolutely not better off gone. Round two with Shawn starts right now. Let's get into it. Shawn, welcome back to the podcast. It's been not that long.
What is up?
Yeah.
It seems like it was just yesterday, but then if I actually really think about it, it seems like it was forever ago. So,
Yeah, time
um,
flies.
yeah, it's Veterans Day, so I want to say Happy Veterans Day to all the vets that are watching, um, and you as well. Obviously, most people know your husband is deployed right now, right? And I spent 13 years active duty in the Navy and then got out and got my VA disability, for PTSD and stuff like that. So, kind of like we've been talking about all along, it's kind of works out to where we're doing the podcast today because it's not just, Mental Health Awareness Month, but it's also Veterans Day. Um, and the whole 22 a day thing is real, you know. And we'll jump right into this because I mean this is a pretty important topic, and there's no need to really beat around the bush per se. But yeah, it's men's mental health is one of the things that's the stigma of um, nobody cares, work harder.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's just how it's always been. Is that I want to say up until probably the mid 2010s is when I really saw a shift in the mentality and the less people being judgmental of men getting help.
I feel
Um,
like a lot of it is just most men are almost taught to suffer in silence, like, and
yeah,
they like label it as being strong, but really
right.
it's like killing them within.
Yeah, and and it's it's very easy as a male to grow up and hey, you skinned your knee, suck it up, buttercup, or
Mhm.
it, your feelings are hurt because your girlfriend broke up with you. Who cares? You're a dude, get over it, go, do what guys do. Um, which is stupid. It's bullshit. Um, because if a guy does it, then it's cool, but if a female does it, obviously that whole stigma is a whole different thing. But it's as a guy, you weren't allowed to have feelings.
Yeah. And I
You
see
just
that so often. Like, I mean,
yeah,
I feel like growing up in the generation that I did and that we did, it's like our parents taught us that, like, hey,
yeah,
don't show those emotions because that shows that you're weak, and we don't want people to think that you're soft and weak. And I think that now in today's society, we've kind of shifted a little bit like too far in a lot of
yeah,
circumstances where like people are just like complete beta males, will say, right? Where they literally, it's like they can't do anything for themselves because they're so caught up in being a victim. But we
right,
need to find that middle line where it's not like we're always feeling sorry for ourselves, but we're also recognizing emotion and we're not just burying it down because it doesn't just
right,
disappear. It doesn't go away unless you actually deal with it.
right. And I think that's a great segue. It's nothing against anybody that's overly emotional,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I also think that there's a lot of milking the cow, as we like to call it. It's hey, let's be realistic. That was a big deal, but now you've been dealing with this issue. Like, there is a certain point where's the line need to be drawn, right?
Yeah.
And that's where going to see somebody or talking to somebody actually helps.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure most people saw the post that I reshared from a good friend of mine where he was talking about men's mental health and suicide and stuff like that, but that is the unfortunate, outcome of a lot of people, whether it's military or male, female, civilian, it doesn't matter. If people get overwhelmed, in the long run, they think that's the only option is, there's no way out. And that's not really true. There's always a way out. And for the most part, it's probably not as bad as you think it is. Um, there's a quote, and I don't remember who said it, but it was something to the effect of my worst day is my worst day. Doesn't matter if it's I just, my worst day on the planet was I had a wreck on the way, or a wreck on the way to the gym. Well, your worst day might have been losing a family member.
Mm-hmm.
Just because your worst day was worse than mine doesn't mean it doesn't affect me the same.
Right. And I think
Yep.
that right now, more than ever, a lot of people are caught up in this, like, in this almost like victimhood battle where
Yes.
it's comparing, like, oh, well, I've been through more than
Yep.
you. But that doesn't, it's the perspective. Everything is
Right.
relative. So, like, one thing, like you were saying, might affect somebody completely different depending on their perspective towards it and what they've been through in their experience in life.
Yeah. And you're a coach, right? So you get it. What's heavy to me is not going to be heavy to somebody else, which will be
Hmm.
heavy to somebody else. Strength is relative.
Hmm.
Bad days are relative. If you want to put it in terms of working out, which a lot of people will, that are watching this are majority fitness people. What's your RPE? You know,
Right?
right? So if once again, if 500 pounds is heavy to you on a deadlift and I walk up to it and pull it, your RPE might be 8 or 9, whereas it's a 4 or 5 for me, right? So
And it also depends on experience there too, right? Because
exactly.
somebody who just started working out, their RP 5 or 7, their RP 8 is going to be very different from my RP 8 because I've learned
Right.
to suffer intentionally. And they think that, like, ooh, that little pain, that's bad. I'm hurting myself. So let me back
Yep.
off.
Right. And what got you there was going to a therapist and working through it.
Hmm.
Um, gym being the therapy, or mental health wise, a therapist actually being a therapist. Or, if you can't afford a therapist, talk to somebody, be like, hey, whether it's your family or spouse, significant other, or, whatever, shit, message me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I might not know person XYZ, but I'd rather have a 2 hour conversation with somebody than see so and so killed themselves, on Instagram the next morning.
And I find
Um,
that when you do talk about it, just like get it out of your system, you feel a lot better.
yeah,
Whether or not the issue was solved or not, you just feel
right.
good talking about it. That way you don't feel like you're alone.
Well, I think it's because saying something out loud, yeah, it makes it real, but it also kind of makes you realize, oh wow, that was kind of dumb. Like maybe it isn't really as bad as it is.
Mhm. I actually
Um,
talk about this a lot with my eating disorder thoughts. So,
yeah,
like, I had a really bad eating disorder, and I still do struggle a lot with like the thoughts and stuff. And
yeah,
if I say, "Oh no, I have to earn this food," or "I can't eat that," and then I say it out loud, I'm like, "What do you mean I can't eat 2 rice cakes? That doesn't make sense, you know?"
right, yeah. Well, even for me, and my wife gets on to me sometimes. I am obsessively 100% as far as nutrition. Obviously
Same.
working out, that's the easy part.
Yep.
My job is a competitive bodybuilder. So I'm obsessively, you know, if it says 25 grams of fit butter, it's going to be 25 grams of fit butter. It's not going to be 24. It's not going to be 26.
Yep.
Oh, well, you're in the off season. You're eating 8,200 plus calories a day. What's 1 gram of fit butter? Okay, well, 1 gram turns into 10, turns into 100, and then you just snowball throughout the day.
We're literally
Um,
the same person in
yeah,
that fight
right.
too. I'm like the
Um,
same way.
right. And it's going back to talking about it and bringing it out loud and stuff like that. It's kind of funny you mentioned that. So in 2023, I won the Mr. Minnesota uh, overall title, and one of the guys. Obviously, you've never seen me compete, but anybody that knows me that's seen me compete, I love being on stage. I live for being on stage. I get on there. I don't care how shitty of a mood I'm in backstage. The second the lights hit me, it's a completely that's my spot, right?
Yeah.
I get up there, I'm smiling while I'm posing, I'm having fun. People talk about we're going to war. Not really. Let's go up there and have fun, right? But I say that to say this. I get up there, I want everybody to smile. I want everybody to have fun. Every single one of my videos that I've ever posted, you can see me walking off stage. Whether I win or not, it doesn't matter. I'm still hugging people on stage, patting them on the back, doing, good game on the booty cheeks or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Um, because that's everybody worked X amount of weeks to get to this point. Why are you going to be up there boo boo face?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so after I had won the overall in 2023, this guy that was on stage with me came up there, and when they did uh, the group pose down, he was kind of off to the side, and I went and grabbed him and pulled him over, like, "Come on, bro, let's have fun. This shit doesn't count anymore. There's no point to be boo boo face. Let's have fun." So after the show, he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know I appreciate it. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I was going to go home and kill myself because I wasn't happy with my prep. My coach fucked me over. Like I'm gonna get a little teary eyed because
Damn.
this is very important to me. Men's mental health really is important to me, and I had no idea. I thought he was just off to the side just because people get shy. You're on
Yeah.
stage basically fucking naked in front of anywhere from hundreds to thousands of people. I could see why somebody would be shy. So I didn't think about it in that aspect. But after the show, he comes up and, we're talking about it. And I was like, bro, like, I don't even remember his name and it's not personal, but here's my phone number. I don't give a fuck what time it is. If you really have those thoughts, call me. Let's have a conversation. If you don't want to have a conversation on the phone, I'll get in my fucking car and I will drive to wherever you are at and we'll have a real conversation. But call me, you know? And I had never, I would like to think I've had impacts on people before, but nobody's ever directly told me, hey, I appreciate
Yeah.
what you did for me. So that was like, yeah, I had just won the overall. I spent an hour talking to Phil Heath, like, it's because Phil Heath was at the show, he was
That's
handing out
cool.
awards and stuff. And that picture right there,
Mm-hmm.
that was backstage. That's me when he was there at the show. Anyways, oops, let me turn my light back off. So, anyways, um, all that stuff, like, I mean, my wife, I'm sorry, focus. um, my wife was out front waiting on me. My friends were out there waiting on me. I had people waiting to take pictures on me. They're blowing my phone up, but I'm having this long conversation with Phil Heath. It's like a once in a lifetime
Oh
experience.
yeah.
This guy coming up to me and thanking me for saving his life meant more than any of that shit whatsoever. Like,
That's such an incredible story to really emphasize how you never know what somebody's going through. Like
you don't.
everybody is going through something.
Everybody's going through something. And
So it's so important to actually be kind. And one of the ways that I look at it is like, even as simple as when I go to the grocery store and I'm checking out, how can I be one of the best parts of that person's day? How can I make an
yeah,
impact to maybe even change the day that they're having?
it's free. It literally costs you nothing to be polite,
Correct.
you know? Um, but like you said, you never know what goes going through somebody's day, and there's so many people are always assholes. And I mean, I'm still an asshole. Let's not get it twisted. But I really make it a point when I'm in public and, especially like customer service related people, whether
Yeah.
it's at a restaurant or checking out in a grocery store or a gas station line, whatever, it doesn't matter. Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. Have a good day. And then walk out.
Yeah.
Telling somebody to have a good day. It's so simple.
It blows my mind when I see people being rude to servers, to
Yeah.
like barely even looking at somebody in the eye because you're so on your phone while you're checking out at the grocery store. Have a
Yep.
conversation. It'll probably make you better too.
Yeah. It really will, and that's this all this stuff is full circle, I mean, social media is
Yep.
more than likely what people are scrolling at. When me and my wife go to dinner or date nights or whatever, or even if our son goes, because their son's 17, so he doesn't always want to hang out with us, but like tonight we're gonna go get dinner tonight, for Veterans Day or whatever.
Mhm.
So I was like, hey buddy, do you want to come with us tonight? He's like, yeah, I'll come. So anyway, so we have like a thing, a rule, not it's an unsaid rule, but nobody's going to be on their phone. We sit down, we you haven't if you're going to get on your phone, you have until the time everybody orders, right? because if I'm still looking at the menu and I don't really care what you're doing because I'm not paying attention to you anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once we order, put your fucking phone up,
I
right?
love that.
And so Sunday, we went, filled my love tank up. And having your love tank full in a relationship is very, very good for your mental health as well.
Oh yeah.
Because if you feel like you're not appreciated by your spouse or partner, or whoever, that is going to be a major factor on how you look at yourself and how you see yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just for females, it's for males as well, right? If
Yeah.
you feel like, my spouse isn't paying attention to me, then you're going to start doom scrolling on social media. Then you're going to start comparing yourself to everybody on social media. And then that's when you just go down the doom scrolling rabbit hole, right? So, but yeah, we had that thing, when we go to a restaurant or, wherever, hey, we're just going to put our phones up. Now, if we're in the middle of a conversation, the whole reason I brought that up is so we were at the restaurant, and so we're going on a cruise for Christmas this year.
Nice.
Her, and my son, because he's joining the military next year, and this will be
Mm-hmm.
our last real Christmas together before he's gone. So like we'll be in Honduras for on Christmas Day. But anyways, so we were talking about it, and I don't remember what the question was. So she pulled out her phone and she looked up whatever the question was, but then she put it down. And then we went back to having a normal conversation. But social media, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is all a fucking lie. It's all bullshit, right? 90%, right? I mean, it is what it is, but
Yeah.
nobody really shows the the bad parts of their life. And this is
Mm-hmm.
a full circle moment back to what I brought up earlier which you reposted it as well. Um, with my buddy talking about suicide and how he was appreciating some of his brothers. And I tell most of my close friends when I get off the phone with them, hey, love you, dude, I'll talk to you later, whatever, right? Because whether it's a male or female, it doesn't matter. If I have if I have love for you, I'm going to tell you, right?
Mm-hmm.
um because I think that means a lot. You know what
It
I'm
does.
saying?
It's underrated too.
Yeah, it is. And it's not like I'm in love with you, but like like you're you're part of my circle. Like I
Mm-hmm.
would do something, anything for you. And my wife asked me a question the other day, and we were talking about how many people do you think you could call? And I'm actually asking you the question now. How many people you don't have to say names, but do you think you could give me a number? If you called at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm broke down on the side of the road in bumfuck Egypt, how many people you think would A, answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, or B, no questions asked on the way?
I say, does my husband count?
Well, I would assume. If not, we need to have a different conversation.
might have to have a different combo there.
Right.
Yeah, I would say outside of family, probably like a good three or four people I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah. So, and I agree. Um, Especially being in the military, I would like to think my brothers or sisters, that I could call if I live in Minnesota, but we'll say I'm in Arizona and I just happen to know somebody I was in the military with. I would like to think that they would be like, yeah, I'm on the way. Because you would like to think you have that, bond. But so she was married before I was, me and her were both married separately to different people before we got together. Well, her ex-husband is ex-military, he was Marine, and she still has like her group of like Marine girlfriends that they still talk to, till this day. And that was we've been together 13 years almost,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I mean, that was a long time ago. Um, but she knows for a fact that she could pick her phone up no matter where we're at, and it's been proven. Hey, we're flying into this state. Hey, come stay on our couch for the night if you need to. No
Mm-hmm.
questions asked, straight up offered. We didn't ask. So super cool. Love that. But she asked me the same question. I was like, less than a dozen.
Yeah.
And
Oh, 100%.
for sure, way less than a dozen, and that's being overly generous. Like
Yeah.
I got maybe five or six on my hand, that I could count on my hands, um, that I still talk to on a regular daily basis. A couple people from Virginia Beach, one maybe two people, from when I was stationed in Gulfport, Mississippi. Uh, One of my little sister, quote unquote, she lives in Florida. I know I can call her, but like outside of a handful of people, I really don't. I would like to think I do, but I wouldn't bet my life on it.
Right. And honestly, I I don't see a problem with that. I think quality over quantity is so much better
Agreed.
when it comes to relationships. I feel like when we were younger, people were just so obsessed with having more and more people
Yep.
know them, like them. But then as you get older, you start to appreciate the depth of relationships a
Yeah.
lot more than just the quantity of the relationships that you have.
Yeah. I have once again a handful of friends that, I won't name names, obviously, but I could easily name them on one hand, from Virginia Beach to Mississippi, and a couple of spots in between. But I, I know, if I don't talk to them, most of these people I do talk to on a daily basis. There's probably three or four people I talk to on a daily basis. We have 2,000 plus days on Snapchat streaks, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's if I didn't talk to them for 6 months and I picked up the phone and called them, it would be like nothing changed.
Yep,
Versus,
those are the good people.
right, versus it's, if I called, my old friend associate from the military, it'd probably be a 3 hour conversation trying to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what happens is people get into their own life, into their own things, and just grow apart. It's nobody's fault. But life happens, you grow apart, and then that relationship dwindles. But like you said, there are those handful of people where it doesn't matter how much time goes by, it just is what it is. It's like nothing ever changed. Now, I will say I'm a little bit jealous because I do know, and I see it day in and day out. She talks to these other women, these other core wives or whatever you want to call it, on a consistent basis. And I know for a fact, because like I said, it's been proven that she could call on them, but anytime she wanted. But that's a very, very big anomaly,
Yeah, it
right?
is.
It's not
Absolutely.
something that happens all the time. But I want to hear your thoughts and kind of your point of view as a, and then we'll go into my a little bit of my PTSD and my thoughts and all that stuff. But once again, I feel like nobody cares work harder, as a male is definitely a thing. But I also feel like it's become so much of a thing lately that women's mental health isn't taken as seriously as it used to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there does need to be a balance,
Mm-hmm.
right? Every life matters, right? Everybody does matter, and it doesn't matter what your struggles are, where you come from, everybody is important to somebody, right? So as a military spouse, what kind of hurdles do you think you have to deal with that are obviously going to be completely different from an active duty member or, a reservist or, whatever, actual member of the military?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, obviously the biggest thing is what I'm going through right now is with him being gone on deployment. And it's one of those things that it's going to happen and you kind of can mentally prepare yourself for it, but
Yeah.
you don't really know what it's like until it's actually happening. Like it's one thing to have him gone for like a weekend and you're like,
It's
"Oh
a
yeah, my
short
spouse is coming
training.
back."
Yeah.
Yeah, my spouse is coming back, whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, "Okay, I'm taking you to the airport and I'm not going to see you for 4 months." That's weird.
Yeah.
And I was actually talking to my husband about this before, or my friend who actually his her husband works with my husband, so she gets it.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's so weird how a lot of couples that we know, like their spouse just goes to work and comes home, like
Yeah.
every night. And it's so weird to be like, I'm just home alone with the dogs, and every night it's just super quiet. And
Yeah.
every night when I don't hear from him, I'm like, is he good? You know?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a strain on me mentally because it just increases my stress because I'm constantly thinking about, is he okay? I can't wait for him to be home. I hate being here by myself. I have like all these new
Yeah.
responsibilities that generally he would take care of, but now I have to take care of.
Yep.
And then also, I know that he's going through a lot. He's not home. He's not where he's used to being. And I worry about him and his mental health because
Yeah.
he himself is that person where his dad, when he was growing up, one of the best father figures I've ever seen. but he does have that, well, you shouldn't show emotion. So like throughout his whole childhood, he never showed
Yeah.
emotions. And
That's
when
that
I start,
generation. Yeah.
right? And when I start having like these conversations about, oh, I'm struggling here, he's just like, I don't understand. You
Yeah. Yeah.
know? So it's hard.
It is hard, and it's one of the things that most people don't think about is the life of the spouse, male or female, you know, of a military member. Everybody knows when you get deployed, it's not gonna, whether it's fun or not isn't the thing, but it's outside your routine. It's different.
Mhm.
Um, like my last two deployments, I was lucky enough to go to the same spot. We went to Guam.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, my last two deployments, literally the exact same barracks room. It was
Yeah, you get a
everything
little
was
bit of
down.
familiarity there.
Right. So that was different. Plus it's Guam. It's not, a war zone. So that's
Right.
completely different. But if you're to, like when I went to Afghanistan, stuff like that, like it's just those things where it's everybody knows that's going to suck. You
Yep.
can only make it so good, right? But what they don't realize is the spouse on the other end is absorbing every bit of bill stress, life stress, house stress, stress. Like
Yeah.
on top of all that, your best friend and your partner is fucking gone.
Yeah, and it's like the little things too. Like for example, our Traeger, like one of the nut bolts of it came off, and now I can't fucking find it. It's like somewhere in the yard. Probably one of
Yeah,
the dogs took it. But now I'm just like, I have to figure out how to fix this, which I just
yeah,
need to Google it. But it's one of those things that's just like an extra thing on top of
yep,
everything else.
yep.
And another thing that I didn't really think would impact me as much as it has is having the whole Charlie Kirk scenario happen
Oh
before
God, yeah,
this. And
yeah.
I can't even imagine what she's going through, especially with all the fucking internet trolls being like on top of her the way they
Doing
are.
what they do, yep.
But it makes me even more fearful because she didn't think that he would just go to work and not come home that night. When
Right.
when you actually see it in reality, it scares you
It's
because you see
wild.
how real it can be.
Yeah. And that's across the board. It's not just military, it's
Hmm.
first responders.
It's
It's
everything, really.
and if you want to be super technical, I mean, anybody can die on the way, to or from work, right? And I
Correct.
get it, but a high pressure, high stress, higher danger job, linemen, electricians, they dealing with death every single day. One
Hmm.
mess up and they're gone. So I can imagine their spouses might not view it exactly the same way, but they know the dangers.
Yeah.
Um, but and it's the same thing with first responders, whether it's a fireman, policeman, EMT, it doesn't matter. But I saw it a lot with my wife when we got married, because we got married in 2014, and then in June of 2014, and then July of 15, I went on deployment. So
Yeah.
her and my son, right, which I had full custody of from my previous marriage, which is funny. When we met, she was like, I don't want anybody in the military. I don't want anybody with kids. And she was going to college in Texas at the time while I was stationed in Virginia Beach. And
That's
she
so
was like,
funny.
I don't want to do long distance. I was like, okay. And here we are forever later. So, and she really is my best friend. So I know I was struggling my first deployment without her. I'd been
Hmm.
on deployment before, obviously, so that wasn't new. Um, but I feel bad for her because she took on a lot. Like we weren't even together a full year. She
Yeah.
moved to Georgia with my parents because they have a big ass house. So she just went and lived. There's a whole kitchen downstairs in the basement, like whatever, right? So um, she went and lived, with my parents, and I went to Mississippi for a month and a half, and then we immediately went on deployment. There was no point for her to go to Mississippi.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have known anybody. She wouldn't have had no help. Like she
It would have
had
just been more stress in her.
exactly. But she got to spend a lot of time with my grandmother before she passed, so that helped. But I was seeing it from an outside point of view of how much it was affecting her mental health because we had just gotten married. Her best friend's gone. Now she has a 4 or 5, what was he, 5 years old at the time? No, 7 years old at the time. I can't count apparently. But either way, super young at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
not even really her biological kid, just as I say just a stepmom. I don't mean it that way, but like you
I
get what I'm
know.
saying,
Yeah.
So um now I will say I don't talk bad about my ex-wife, but she's been more of a mom to my son than I could have ever even asked for.
Hmm.
But it just goes to show like how much mental stress she had as a spouse, you know, bills and all this other stuff that she had to deal with while I'm sitting in Guam on the beach and diving and doing all this shit that looks super cool while she's back home super stressed out. So I can understand what you're going through. Because is this your first deployment with him?
It's the longest one.
Okay, the longest one. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
like you said,
he's been gone a lot the past 2 years since he's gotten to team,
yeah,
but like this is the longest, and it was supposed to be longer, so I'm just
yeah,
blessed that it's not.
yeah,
And I would say also one thing that I specifically deal with, and I know that a lot of military spouses do the same. It's like when you have your person there, that's like your rock, the person who like
yeah.
you get a hug from them, and it's like, okay, I'm feeling a
That's
little
it.
better, so like my stress comes down, so I can keep kind of going. You don't
Yep.
get that, so like the stress, and then all of a sudden you just like break,
Yeah.
fall into
Yeah.
like this darkness.
Yeah.
And the only thing that can get you out of that is that person. So it's like you kind of have to figure out different ways to get yourself out of there.
And it's hard, I mean, because I don't know about y'all, but like nobody in real life actually cuddles all night when they're sleeping. Like it's just
I
not really a thing.
know we do all fucking night.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
I wake
wow.
up, my
Okay.
neck hurts every day,
Oh, Jesus.
and he's a furnace, so I.
Yeah, I'm the same way. But, you know, most people, you're an anomaly, but most people don't generally cuddle all night, right? So, and we don't, but I have to be touching her,
Yeah,
right? And it's just because she's my security blanket. It doesn't matter how shitty of a mood I'm in, or how pissed off I am, or whatever reason, just her her energy. And I
yeah,
know that's the corniest, dumbest shit in the planet, but it's a real thing. Like
it
her
is
just
real.
being there is like you said, it's my rock, it's my ground, right?
Yeah,
And
my sleep sucks when he's not here. It takes me at least
yeah,
like 3 weeks to actually like adapt. And at
yeah,
that time, it's still not like fully great. It's just better, you know?
yeah. And I don't know. I guess I've never really asked this question before because I never really thought about it, but I just kind of ran across my mind. Like we have this thing where it's no matter what we're doing, she's a mortgage broker. So she's home a lot as well. And obviously I'm in this office majority of my day. But we have a thing, doesn't matter what we're doing. Hey, can I have a hug? No questions
Yep.
asked.
No questions asked every time.
I don't give a flying fuck what I'm doing because nothing is more important than that. So, sometimes they'll be like, I haven't had a hug today. Shit.
Yep.
you
Yep.
know
Yep.
but that's just how life goes. I mean, she trains with me Mondays and Fridays, and we both sleep in. My sleep in is like 4 o'clock in the morning, but neither one of us rush to get up on Wednesdays. But it's life. You're going about life, you're doing whatever you do, and then you realize it's 5 o'clock at night. Hey, chick, come give me a hug and a kiss. Like, you
Yep.
know what I'm saying? Even though I've seen you all day, I just, you know what I'm saying? So there is a lot to be said about admitting to yourself, and I'm going to say this as a guy because women have an easier time doing this, but admitting to yourself and to everybody else how important your spouse is. It's not cool. It is not fucking cool to act like your spouse isn't important.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. You can't choose your family. You can't choose your mom, dad, brother, sister, kids. You can't choose that. There's one person on this planet that you choose to be with, and that is your fucking spouse.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That person's choosing to be with you through the bullshit, through the ugly, throwing up naked on the floor because you're sick as a dog. You know what I'm saying? Like seeing it at your worst and seeing it you're at your best. It is not cool to act like that person isn't fucking important. And
Hmm.
if you truly think that it's okay to treat your spouse that way, you should just be a single fucking asshole for the rest of your life.
Correct. Correct.
Because
Because you
nobody
don't deserve
deserves
that.
exactly. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier is you never know what somebody's got going on. That
Hmm.
cashier, I'm going to be a little stereotypical here, and I don't mean it that way. That cashier, could be having a super shitty day because her husband beat the dog shit out of her last night. But
Yeah.
they've got 3 kids on, income and a half, and she's scared to leave because she can't financially afford it. That happens a bajillion times a day.
Yeah. I've had multiple clients who
Yeah.
they're in that situation where I had once had a client who called me at like 2 in the morning because her uh ex now
Yeah, good.
brought out a gun and was like being aggressive, and was like, you gotta fucking leave. So she left, and
Yeah.
it was like the best decision that she's ever made. So
Yep.
like, again, you don't know what somebody's going through in,
No.
like, you just see that person, and most of the time people are afraid to show what they're truly going through, and
Yeah,
sometimes you have to put on like that strong face,
you do.
and
You
there's
do.
nothing wrong with that. But you also have to be able to take a step back and truly process what you're going through, recognize the emotions, and work through it instead of just hiding it and trying to tough
Yep.
it out.
Yep. And that's where it all goes back to, having somebody to talk to, right? If
Yeah.
if you have a my so I talk about this a lot because it completely changed mine and my wife's relationship for the better. I mean, it's way I can't begin to describe how good of a situation this was, as shitty as it was. And I know that doesn't make sense, but I'll tell you why. So 2019, me and my wife split up for a very short period of time. Her and my son weren't getting along. I have full custody of my son. I can't not choose him over her, right?
Right.
So one day I was like, hey, I think we need a divorce, blah blah blah, whatever. So she moved downstairs for the time being, and then she eventually moved into her aunt's house, like 3 miles away, give or take. Um, Everything was fine until I watched her walk out the door, and this is before I really started seeing a therapist. Right? None of this was my fault. Nobody was at fault. They just weren't getting along, and I
Hmm.
I didn't see I never I've never considered suicide, right? But I didn't see a better way to deal with the situation than, hey, we need a divorce. I've got to protect my son,
Right.
right? So while we're going through this separation and divorce process, this chick was literally doing everything she could to make sure when me and her were separated that I was going to be okay. I'm gonna fucking cry because this is because seeing her walk out the door was the hardest thing that I've ever fucking seen.
Yeah.
I've PTSD. I've had to put somebody's guts in a fucking bag and tape it to their stomach. I would do that a million times over before watching her walk out the fucking door again.
Yep.
And to the point to where she turned to walk out the door and I fucking ran my ass up to the fucking bedroom because I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see it. And so I was talking to this chick. Nothing sexual ever happened, but I was talking to this chick. And every time she would text me, or every time we had a conversation, all I could do was compare it to Rebecca. Hope it was Rebecca texting me. And then
Yep.
so one night, it's fucking, I want to say it's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I call her. I'm like, hey. And I literally said this, and she fucking dies. I said, I choose you, Pikachu. I swear to fucking God.
I know that you said that too.
I
Like, I
if
didn't
you
downplay it
know
at
me
all.
well enough, like I swear to God, I fucking said that, and she's like, "What?" I was like, "For real, seriously." And then we had a conversation at super early in the morning, and she was like, "Look, I'm gonna go back to sleep. I love you. Let's both go back to sleep. I'm gonna come over in the morning, and we'll figure out where to go from here." One, she never hesitated. She never wanted the divorce to begin with.
Right.
But that just goes to show how great of a person she is.
Hmm.
But I never really wanted it either, but like I said, I didn't see a better way
Yeah.
because I had never really went and saw a therapist. I had my head up my ass because of the PTSD thing. I was trying to deal with everything in myself. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know how to ask for help. And this is only fucking 6.5 years ago.
I
This
think
is,
where a lot of people find themselves too.
yeah,
I also think that there's a negative. I think the the perspective towards therapy is improving.
yeah.
However, a lot of people look at therapy and say, "I'm not crazy. I don't need to see a therapist." And
And
it's not
it's,
about you being crazy. It's about you having an outlet.
yeah, it has nothing to do with being crazy. Maybe you are, and your
I feel like
therapist.
everyone's a little bit
I
crazy, and
I
I
think
think that's fine.
if you're not, you're something's wrong. You're probably a sociopath.
Correct.
But no, like you said, therapy is to get whatever you want off your chest without judgment.
Yes.
And I think that's what a lot of people get hung up on is, hey, I'm stating a situation. I have no intentions of killing myself. I don't want to do that. I that's literally the farthest thing from my in my thoughts. But what I'm trying to get at is, quote unquote, hey, nobody cares. I don't have anybody to talk to. My life sucks, quote unquote. I'm just going to kill myself.
Right. And when we just say
That's
it to ourselves over and over again, our mind starts to be like, yep, that's the
yes.
only way. That's the only way. Because what
Yeah.
we say in our head, it's not rational most of the time,
No,
which is
it's
why it's
not.
important to say things out loud
Yep.
or to say it to somebody else.
Right. And so if you go to a therapist and well, and that's the thing, you like if I tell, Caitlin that, I failed on my squat today and, I don't really have a really good segue into wanting to kill yourself, but, my life's the worst, thing on the planet. If I tell her that, she's going to judge me, so I'm just going to hold it in,
Hmm.
right? Because whatever. But if you're saying it out loud, like I said before, and you're talking to a therapist or somebody that you trust enough to not judge you or not laugh at you, because realistically, some people are just fucking assholes, right? So there is a fine line of who you should and shouldn't talk to,
Right.
because there might be somebody out there that really wants to see you fail, and while they might not intentionally cause you to go down that train of thought, they're not going to be helpful.
Right.
So there are people, and that's the shitty part of humanity. It's just there's no
They're
way
just shitty
around it.
people.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. But the reason I always bring up go see a therapist is because that is literally their job. And I'm not going to say they don't care, because they do, but they don't care how rough your life is. They're not there to compare, keeping up with the Joneses, like, hey, I've got a one up you, my
Hmm.
story is worse than your story type thing. They're not there to judge you. You might go see a therapist and they say 5 words the whole time you're there.
Yeah. Yep. And
And
that's
some
usually an indicator of a good therapist.
it really really is. They might be like, okay, well, it's so cliche, but it's because it's true. They might be like, okay, well, you know, how was your relationship with your parents, mom, dad, whatever, because
Yeah.
a lot of childhood trauma does cause issues in, in your future
Yeah.
self, but they're not going to be blowing you up with a million questions as long as you are talking. Now, if you're just sitting there staring at the wall like a bump on a log, they're going to try to get you to, whatever, right? But if you go into a therapist, and this is for somebody who's never been to a therapist, if you go into the therapist and say, and tell them out the door, hey, look, I just need to get some shit off my chest. I don't, want to be judged. They're not going to judge you anyways. But if you just go in there with an expectation of, hey, I just need to unload,
Hmm.
I got you. That's the, and that is what they're good for. They'll sit there, you know, quote unquote, they might have an hour long session, you know, a good therapist will be like, okay, this is going to take a little bit longer. Give me 1 second. Let me reschedule my next one, or, whatever, or push it back just a little bit, because it's way, like I said before, it's way more important to hear somebody out throughout their whole story and them not get to, than, them not get to the point that they're trying to make and you cut them off, and now they have X amount of time until they're able to see you again to dwell on the bad portions of it, right? So a good therapist will sit there and listen, and when you're ready to stop talking, they'll push a little bit harder.
Hmm.
But go ahead.
I was going to say that this is one of the reasons why I always remind my clients, like, I'm not here to judge you. I
Yeah.
only expect effort and honesty. I'll
Yep.
never expect perfection. And I always need you to understand, yes, I'm a fitness and nutrition coach,
Yeah.
but at the foundational level, like, if you ever need me for anything, I'm always a place where I will never judge you because
Yep.
I'm human and I'm not perfect. So it would be very wrong of me to judge somebody else.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, if they'll send me like a long message, I ask them, do you need me to help you solve a problem or do you need me to just listen?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
sometimes I used to be that person and I've like kind of caught it and fixed it to be like, oh, let me solve this problem for
Yep.
that person. And then that person's
Yep.
just like, I don't need you to solve it. I just need you to listen.
Yeah. And as for the majority of my Navy career, and I think we talked about this last time, I was a shop supervisor.
Hmm.
So one of the unknown jobs of a shop supervisor is to be everybody's springboard. You've got to know what's going on with your people. If, you know, Seaman Johnson, whatever his name is having issues at home and he's late every single day because of his wife or whatever, or her husband or her wife or whatever the spouse is, you need to know that stuff, but you also need to be a sounding board for them, right? So same thing, I as a nutrition and strength coach as well, as a personal trainer, I have one client, literally, she just comes to the gym. We walk on the treadmill for her whole
Mhm.
session, and we just talk.
Yep. I
And
have one client like that too.
yeah, and that's cool. I love it because I I kind of double dip a little bit and kind of use it, and get some things off my chest if I feel like I need to say something. But she's also been with me for fucking forever, like a
Yeah,
long
yeah.
time.
Those are the best.
I mean, like 6+ years, 7 years now, give or
Yeah.
take. Yeah, about 7 years. So she's been with me forever. So, you know, we get each other birthday presents, Christmas presents type thing, right? Like she is family. So that's a little bit different, but on the, same side of that is, you know, some people just need to get shit off their chest,
Hmm.
and as a coach, I'm not saying you have to be everybody's therapist, but it is one of those things where you have intimate details about somebody's life, and you're controlling their we, I'm glad it's going this way because I want to say this. Your overall health also has a lot to do with your mental health as well.
Yes. And
Um,
people don't take that as
correlate them.
seriously as they should.
No, they don't correlate them. If
Mhm.
you're, how do I say this without being stereotypical and mean? If you're 450, 500 pounds, I'm sorry, you're not happy with life. I
Correct.
don't care what you tell anybody. Stop lying to yourself.
Hmm.
Because if you weigh 500 pounds, male, female, black, white, green, purple, blue, it don't fucking matter, right? If you weigh 500 pounds, you're not happy. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
I
where
couldn't agree more. And I think that like also you have to look at somebody who's 500 pounds overweight, not five, you know what I mean?
well, they
Um,
could be. I mean, but
yeah, they
yeah,
could be 100%. They aren't, they're making nutritional choices that reflect upon a lifestyle of somebody who's 500 pounds. So those nutritional choices that they're making, those lifestyle choices that they're making, aren't inducive of good mental health.
it's not because they're eating because they're depressed. They're eating
Right.
because they're bored. They're eating
And
because they're
all
not
of the shit that they're
stimulated.
eating is causing inflammation.
Yeah.
And it's just, people don't realize that, like, when you have inflammation in your gut, the gut brain axis is a very real thing.
Oh,
So if you're depressed and
it's
anxious,
yes.
your gut is impacted. If your gut's
Yeah.
messed up, you're depressed and anxious. It goes both ways.
Well, it's like, when you can have good butterflies in your stomach, right? But
Yeah.
even even whether they're good or bad butterflies in the stomach, everybody's had this, feeling before. You're I guarantee you, if you ever have that feeling again, pay attention. You're not going to be hungry. It's, it's your body's response to the
Mm-hmm.
stressor, whether it's a good or bad stressor, it doesn't matter. But when you live your life like that 24/7, either A, you're not going to eat
Mm-hmm.
anything, or you're going to be the complete opposite side of the spectrum. If you don't know how to control it and you don't know how to somebody to talk to about it, like a therapist or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be on the opposite side of the spectrum and eat everything you can find. And what's
Mm-hmm.
easy to access? Not
Mm-hmm.
chicken and rice, not steak and potatoes,
Yep. Yep.
you
And
know.
what causes that dopamine hit? Not chicken and rice, not steak and
Look,
potatoes.
we have a box of the Christmas tree. They actually did a video for Muscle Sport
I saw that.
about 2 weeks ago,
I have
3 weeks
clients who
ago.
are legit, like they send me fucking TikToks and stuff of these Christmas trees.
Yep. So I did the TikTok, or it was TikTok too, but I did the video a couple weeks ago. So just so everybody knows, if you ever buy a whoopie pie from Muscle Sport, they are meant to be put in the microwave. That's what they're for. It's literally a thing. Like these, you can eat them without the microwave, but I'm telling you, it's night and day difference is what they're meant for. Anyways, so I did the video a few weeks ago, and we still had the one box of the Christmas trees. There's still some left in there. That's how very little they get eaten around here.
Right?
But when I say I would murder a box of them things, that's probably my kryptonite. It
Mm-hmm.
used to be Oreos. I don't like it getting stuck in my teeth, to be honest with
Mm.
you. So, but those Christmas tree cakes, I'm glad they're not out year round because I don't have to fight the urge. And I don't get urges to eat shitty food, but
Yeah.
those are good. But anyway, so that dopamine hit. My wife brought me one yesterday. She was like, "Hey, I don't want to eat this whole thing. Do you want, half of it?" And I was like, "Is a frog's ass watertight? Hell yeah, I do." So, I took a bite, phenomenal for 30 seconds.
Yep.
But here's the thing, and this is why people who are A, depressed, bored, whatever, not stimulated. This is how they get down that path, especially if they're depressed. They feel like shit. They take one bite of a Christmas tree. Fuck,
Yep.
that was good. 30 seconds later, let's have
I'm
another bite.
depressed again. Yep.
Yep. 30
Boom.
seconds later, I'm depressed. And this is all subconscious, right? Well, actually, the word would actually be this is all unconscious thoughts,
Mhm.
not
Yep.
subconscious. And there is a difference, people. Sorry. But anyway, so these are all not surface thoughts. We'll put it that way. Your body is trained from a kid to reward shitty feelings with good food,
Hmm.
good tasting food, sugar.
I mean, a lot of it was taught through our childhood.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you had a shitty day at school. Let's go get some ice cream, make you feel
Let's
better.
get
So
some
then
ice
when
cream,
you
make you feel better.
shitty day at work, let me have some ice cream, make me feel better.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, yeah, but you're a grown ass adult now. You don't have to have the fucking ice cream. That's
No,
making
go make
you
a Ninja Creamy and
worse.
shut up.
Yeah,
go,
just make it into
go
creamy.
make a Ninja Creamy.
It's just
Um,
as good and it has a lot of protein in it.
yep, yep. So,
Ninja Creamy sponsor us.
yeah, please. Well, I go through so we had that conversation last time.
Dude,
Yep.
it's funny. I had to buy another one like 3 weeks ago, and I
Oh
thought
my
of you.
god.
I heard the
Oh
I
my
heard the
god.
blade snap off in it. I was like, fuck.
Shawn did this, that motherfucker.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we talked about the female side or the spousal side of
Yeah.
being deployed.
Yeah, I
And
want to talk about your experience.
yeah, so um got a little bit of dry mouth. And that's actually segues into it, So as a disabled vet with PTSD, luckily here in Minnesota, we have medical marijuana cards. And tremendous help. Like I said, brought up earlier, me and my wife split up in 2019. I said, what the fuck are we doing? Let me go see a therapist. Once again, it was nobody's fault. It was just a product of the situation. Um, so went and saw a therapist, and I was able to get all the stuff off my chest that I didn't even know was bothering me, right? And stuff. So, well, one of the examples that I have PTSD for, that I'm more open to talk about than the other reason, is just because that one is bad. Um, is in 2010 when there was an earthquake in Haiti, right? So we went down there, and as a CB, we are civil engineers, and we do a lot of humanitarian type support. So flew down to Haiti. We were down there for a while, and we were pulling, we were clearing rubble from a school that had fallen.
Hmm.
Well, I can't even begin to tell you how many dead kid bodies were
Yeah.
in that school. And that was one of the most heartbreaking things that I'd ever seen. And you got to think, in Afghanistan, they take infants, kill them, put bombs in their bodies, and lay them on the side of the road with a speaker in them because they know Westerners are going to stop for a screaming baby or a female. It's in our blood.
And then people say that there's no evil in this world.
Right. So, and all Muslims are not that way.
Yeah. Oh,
Obviously,
correct.
ISIS and
Absolutely.
and all them other fucking assholes are just fucking assholes.
Right.
But the Taliban at the time, and all those jihadists and all that stuff, that's what they did. They did the same thing with dogs. They did the same thing with babies. It's just they have no, obviously they have no empathy, but they have no soul. And I
Yeah.
know that's shitty to say, but it is what it is.
I mean, they have
You
no
know,
morals I mean,
morals, yeah.
they were grown up that way where it's just like they're almost robotic in how they work.
Yeah. Um, a segue, I will get into that in a second, before I know today is we're short on time, and this is definitely a topic we could talk about for hours and hours. But, you know, um, when we're in Haiti, and we're pulling all that stuff off, like it was probably one of the worst things I had seen in my entire life, and like I said before, I've taped somebody's guts to their stomach and, whatever, right? So it's just like, I mean, how are you supposed to deal with that by yourself?
Yep.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Like, you don't have to be in a war zone, to see some. Once again, everybody's worst day is only relative to themselves. You can
Right.
absolutely have PTSD and be a civilian and have some shitty stuff happen in your life. Your PTSD is just as bad as my PTSD type thing, right?
You know what's actually crazy? So I was diagnosed with PTSD when I was 6
Yeah.
because on November 11th, which is actually unplanned, today is November 11th,
Yeah.
2001, I saw a plane crash like big plane crash. It was actually, I think it's the second worst commercial airline disaster in American history.
Oh wow.
1 month, 2 months after 9/11, we lived right across from Manhattan. So it was right in our hometown of Rockaway. It
Holy
was like
shit.
10 blocks away. I was 6 and I saw this. And that's when my whole mental health stuff started.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things. It's like I wasn't in the military, but I
No.
still had PTSD because I saw
Yeah.
something horrendous happen.
And it affects you,
Yes.
and it's one of them things where, yeah, I see a therapist, and I see a therapist less so right now because I was able to get those tools
Mm-hmm.
to help me. And, and being a big advocate for men's mental health, I reach out to people all the time. Like I said, my buddy posted that shit yesterday, and I, within seconds, love you, bro. You good? Yep. Just wanted to get this off my chest. Got you.
Yeah.
That's it. We don't have to have a long conversation if you don't want to. Hey, you
Mm-hmm.
good for real? And he knows that's the thing, right? He knows if he was not good, that I was for it wasn't an empty, hey, you good,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of that. And it sucks, the if you ever need anything, let me know. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay, we both know I'm not, right?
I'm definitely not coming to you for anything.
No, but and he knows if it was for real, then obviously I really meant what I said. Um, but yeah, like as a military member, whether you're in a war zone or you're deployed to Guam on a fucking, poor man's Hawaii, diving and living on the beach every day, you're outside your routine. You don't have your spouse with you. If you're single, it's a different story. But from an adult with a family, not some baby E1 E2 in the military, but
Mhm.
you know, um, you're away from your family, you're away from your routine, you're away from your ground, like you said earlier. It doesn't matter if it's in a war zone or not. It's still hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets easier, and obviously being in a war zone is not as easy as being in Guam, right? But it's still like it's not normal.
Yeah.
There's nothing about it that is normal. I mean, you're in another country. Guam is technically another country, even though it's a territory of the United States. But the Horn of Africa, that was a fucking shithole, right? So you're in the Horn of Africa, which is mainly the one of the biggest shitholes on the fucking planet, Djibouti. But yeah, so you're in a weird country. Their laws are different, their mannerisms are different, everything is different. Afghanistan, it's their entire view of humanity as a whole is just not compatible with the Western civilization. And there was an old saying, I don't remember who said it, but their views and some of the tribes that are over in Afghanistan and Iraq and all these other places is um girls are for pleasure, or girls are for breeding, boys are for pleasure. And Joe Rogan actually talks about it all the time, where he has seen videos of, and this happens all the time. So Afghani military age men parading little boys around the streets because that's their sex slaves. And the
Yeah.
more little boys you have, the higher standing you are, right?
Hmm.
And I can't even begin to imagine the mental health issues that causes a little child. And we talked
Oh,
about this
yeah.
before, of a lot of mental health issues do stem from childhood, trauma. And
Hmm.
that's got to be there's two things you don't fuck with: females or kids. It's just what it is, right? So the amount of trauma that is being caused to these kids is astronomical, and the
Yeah.
problem is it's a repetitive cycle.
Hmm.
It happened to me
It's
as
just
a kid.
culture that it is, you know?
Yeah, so seeing that stuff on a daily basis, and you can't do fucking shit about it
Yeah.
because it's not your country, it's not your laws, it's not your rules. You're in no harm or any danger. Just because you don't agree with it, you doesn't mean you can do something about it.
Hmm.
Obviously, 99.999% of the Western civilization would agree that is not okay.
Hmm.
You have the people we won't talk about because they're not, they're not worth talking about. But,
Right.
my whole point is that seeing that stuff isn't normal. You don't walk down to Kmart down the street That's how old I am. Like, talk about Kmart. Shit, you don't walk to Walmart down the street and see some dude parading 12 boys around him that are naked or in little, thongs or diapers or whatever. Like, you just don't see that.
Hmm.
So while, once again, my worst day is the same as your worst day, just because they're different. But while it's not easier or harder to be a spouse, seeing that stuff on a daily basis, it just does something to you that changes you fundamentally,
Yeah.
that you
I think one
have
of the
to
biggest
see
things,
somebody.
yeah, it takes like, it makes you feel powerless. It
Yes.
makes you really see the shit in the world,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that a lot of mental health issues stem from lack of structure, lack of purpose, lack of community,
Yeah.
lack of connection. And
Yeah.
that could happen in any scenario.
It really can, and that's why I truly believe that, once again, and I've said it a million times and I'll say it again, my worst day is the same as your worst day. They're not comparable, but they are your worst days, because they
Mhm.
shouldn't be comparable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like you said before, everybody has shit going on. So it would behoove whoever's listening to find that person, whether it's, an actual therapist or a close friend or a parent. Nobody really wants to talk to their parents about their
Yeah.
their issues. I mean, it just is what it is. But it doesn't matter. Get over yourself, that's kind of rude and kind of mean, but I'm sorry. Get over yourself, because you need help.
Yeah.
That is, I'm not an alcoholic. I actually hate alcohol. But the biggest thing about AA is admitting you have a problem. And
Hmm.
it's the same concept here, right? That
Yeah.
it alcoholism is in my opinion is a true disease, but
Yes.
so is mental health. And
So
it's
is
something.
any sort of addiction or any sort of mental
Yeah.
health issue. It all starts with admitting that you have a problem. Like
Yeah.
if I'm having like a regression with my eating disorder and I just keep ignoring that it's happening, it will never fix itself. It'll only get
No.
worse because it's
Yeah.
not real. It's not happening if I don't look. But if you
Yep.
actually look at it and you say, okay, I can control this, and then you do actions repetitively that show that, oh, I do have control over this.
It doesn't control you, right?
Absolutely. And that's where you take the power back.
Yeah, so many people just want to stick their heads in the sand, whether it's about politics or anything else. It doesn't matter. Ignorance is bliss, but it
Hmm.
really isn't.
Mm-mm.
It really isn't. And it's a lot of issues, whether it be political issues or, fighting with your spouse or whoever. 90% of issues, stress as well, come from mental health,
Hmm.
right?
Most
So
people's just lack of attention to
awareness.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
awareness,
Yeah.
attention. Like they just, like you said, they kind of just stick their heads in the sand and pretend nothing's happening.
Yeah. They act like nothing's happening, because if I ignore it long enough, it goes away.
Hmm.
It's
What have you found are some of like your, do you have any like tactics or tangible daily actions that you do to help with your mental health?
Yeah, I might be a little bit different though, as I might be an anomaly, because my quote unquote love tank, what makes me happy and makes me feel fulfilled is actually talk. And I realized this after that guy came up to me on stage. I really realized this, that, and my entire mindset shifted after that. Um, you know, my what was I saying? Oh yeah, so like helping people realize that it's okay to not be okay,
Hmm.
because nobody is okay, right? It's okay to ask for help. Just
Hmm.
because you're a dude, you know, it's not 1990s anymore and before, right? It's hey, look, there's an issue here. Let's work through it, because you have a family, you have somebody that cares about you, right? Even if you're the only person in your family and you truly don't feel like anybody cares about you, somebody does.
Somebody always does.
You
And I
might
think
not
it's an important
realize it,
reminder. Hmm.
right? You might not realize it, right? Because once again, you don't know what's going on in somebody else's life. So I I think my my way of dealing with it is helping others deal with theirs, because it allows me to tell my story,
Hmm.
right? And kind of refresh in my mind of why I'm here and why I do what I do. that there is a purpose, and once again, that sounds super corny that, everybody has a purpose, but everybody really does, I mean, whether it's something super small as loving your dog because it was a stray and you're a single person and you got your dog from a SPCA. Your purpose is to love the fuck out of that dog and give that dog the best life possible.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds stupid and it sounds silly, but it's still something.
Purpose is what drives us. It truly is.
Yeah,
Like
it
without
really
purpose,
is.
when I find that a lot of times I'll have clients be like, "Oh, well, I just feel like I'm in a funk or I just feel off." And then I
Yeah,
ask them like, "Okay, well, where is purpose coming from these days?" And they can't give me an answer. And it's just I find that even with myself, if
yeah,
I ever am feeling off, it's usually because I'm lacking purpose or I'm just kind of checking boxes instead of using intent behind what I'm doing.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think people think that purpose just everybody knows their purpose like, "Oh, well, that person's so lucky they know their purpose." It's not about
yeah.
finding it, it's about creating opportunities for yourself.
Yeah. Well, it all goes back to admitting to yourself and out loud that it's okay to not have a good day every single day.
Yep.
Stop comparing yourself to everybody on Instagram.
Yeah, because everybody on Instagram is only showing the highlights. And if your brain continues to see only that, then it
Yeah,
thinks like when something bad happens in your life that something's wrong with you.
right. Or even if, hey, this person's going on, vacation every other month, or, this person looks better than me, or they get more cooler cars than I do, who cares?
Yeah. And in fact, a lot of the people who was like, "Oh, I'm posting my Lambo and I'm taking a photo with my Lambo," they're in debt because they can't fucking afford that Lambo. Like
Right.
you don't
Yeah.
know what somebody's actually like what's actually going on in that person's life. But also
Right.
on the flip side, you didn't put in the work that they've put in yet.
Right. And that's why you can't compare yourself.
Hmm.
As a classic physique competitor, it would be absolutely fucking stupid to stare at Chris Bumstead every day and beat
Yeah.
myself down because I'm not Chris Bumstead.
You're not?
I don't think so.
No.
I might be. I don't know. But then I got to remind myself I'm undefeated in Minnesota. I've
Mhm.
top three in nationals multiple years in a row, and all this other stuff. So once again, when people start to kind of answer you, I kind of went around the beat around the bush on answering your question, but my way of dealing with it, besides of keeping my love tank quote unquote full by helping other people, is the gym,
Mhm.
is the structure that I get out of my meals throughout the day and being down here designing and printing and engraving and and all the other stuff that I do helping my clients. I obviously nobody wants to be broke, but I would train clients till the day I was kicked out of my house if it meant that I was changing their lives for the better. And
Yeah.
that is what makes me happy.
Yeah. And I agree with you 100% on that. Like we relate very much so in that sense. Like I'm not creating like 3D printing stuff, but I'm creating content and videos and things that make
Yeah,
me happy. And I find that like the more adversity that I face in the gym and training, the more adversity I can handle outside of life. So when I'm pushing my body to an uncomfortable position and I'm showing
yeah,
myself like, "Hey, I can do hard things," then when
yeah,
I'm faced with a hard thing in life, I'm like, "You've handled harder. Like you can do this."
right. Chris Bumstead actually said pressure is a privilege.
Yep, I love that.
I absolutely love it, and I've really only recently realized the more shit I have on my plate. Actually, let me rephrase that. I've known for a while the busier I am, the less I have time to dwell on the bullshit.
Yep,
Right. And
the
I
better I
learned
can
that in
do them too.
therapy. Right. I learned that
Mhm.
in the therapy. And, I've always got to have something going on in the background far as noise, and all that stuff. Because if it's absolutely quiet, I'm fucked. I go down the rabbit hole. I don't care how much weed I smoke or how many edibles I eat. It doesn't matter. I'm going down the rabbit hole. Never, ever, ever, ever going to kill myself or unalive myself. I should probably not say that. I don't want to get kicked off Spotify, but I'll never unalive myself. But I can, I can, I don't agree with it, but I can see how people spiral
I
very
can.
easily.
Yeah. I've
Um,
been in those positions where I'm like in that train of thought where it's like there's no other option. Like nobody would care. And then when you
say
give
it
it
out loud.
space,
Yeah,
like if you let it dwell a little bit, you're like, "Oh shit, no, I could never do that to my husband. I can never do
right.
that to my mom. I've been through harder things in life. Like this is just a
Yeah,
little hiccup. How can I overcome this?" That's where my mind goes, but I know that I need to give it time. But what
yeah.
happens is people don't give it time and they just
No,
react.
and what the impulse, right? A lot of people
Right.
have no impulse control. They're like, oh,
Right.
but they, like you said, they don't stop to think, how would this affect my wife? What would I do if my wife came in and saw, blood splatter all over the
Yeah.
wall?
That's what I think about, like, because I've been in really dark places, and the one thing that I think about is like, what would my husband do if he came home and like
Yeah. How would
if
that
he's
affect
like
him?
deployed and he doesn't fucking hear from me, you know?
Yeah. And he doesn't, well, Red Cross would get in touch with him, but, that's not how you want him to find out,
Right.
obviously.
No.
But same thing with my kid. Like, what would I do if he walked in on that? And I'm just,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? So I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings when I say this, but it is the most selfish act on the fucking planet.
I agree.
So what works for me on dealing with, my trauma and my bullshit and all my other stuff, while working out helps the majority of people. I don't care if you're in a bad mood or not. Let's be realistic. The workout, it might still suck, but you're going to be in a little bit better mood because here's the thing. It's hard to be intentionally mad. It's hard to be intentionally upset. If you go in the gym, you can be pissed off all you want, but that's 2 hours later. It's
Yep.
very hard to be upset or mad consistently for 2 hours, because what it's going to do is it's going to allow your brain to start thinking through these processes. And there, even if it's just a little twinkling of a fucking seed way back in the back of your brain, it's going to say, and it could just be a very quick passing thought. Maybe it's not that serious.
Yep. Yep. No, every
And all
single
it takes is one. All it
Yep.
takes is one little thought of, maybe it's not that serious. And you
Hmm.
might not realize it at the time, but over a little bit more time, it's going to grow. It's a seed.
Hmm.
It's a seed of an idea. It's going to grow. And then eventually you're going to be like, oh, I was overreacting like a motherfucker,
And usually
you
that's
know?
what it is. I always do say, and I forget where I heard this, probably Ed Milet, but I'm not 100% sure, is that it's impossible to be negative and grateful in the same thought. So
True.
whenever you're negative, it's important to recognize it and reframe it
Yeah.
to like I have this happen to me all the time. Like I've been dealing with some injuries over the past couple years, and knock on wood, right now I'm good. But I was dealing with some really bad knee stuff, and it was like, oh my gosh, worst case scenario, something's torn, something's wrong.
Yeah.
But then when I was like having those moments in training where I was being negative, I was like, you know what? I'm just so fucking grateful that I can squat. I can do
Yeah.
these things. Like, yeah, I have a little bit of pain, but like I'm moving and I'm able to train.
Yeah.
So when you're grateful, it opens so much up.
It really does. It's dealing, with injuries. I took third at this past national show back in July. Um, Long story, I truly feel like I should have won. Long story short, I went to hit a vacuum on stage, and something flew in my mouth, and I started coughing. You can see it in the video. I started
That's so
coughing.
funny.
I lost my pose. The judges saw it, so they moved me out one spot, and then it just was what it was. There was no catching up at that point.
Yeah.
Not making excuses. That's
Yeah.
never
It's just the
happened to me in my
reality.
fucking life. It just was what it was. But anyway, so we were in the airport on the way, to come back home, and we had decided to do the next national level show that was coming up. Well, a week and a half, 2 weeks later, I went to get off my treadmill and went to step off of it while the fucking belt was still going. My knee went one way and my leg went the other way. The only time it hurt was when I was walking. I could squat, I could do a deadlift, I could whatever I do, but anytime I was walking, I felt like it was going to explode. So for about 3.5, 4 weeks, I quietly dealt with it because I'm a fucking idiot. Told my wife a few times, I don't know how to quit, and that's my fault. But I needed to talk to somebody, so obviously I talked to her. Um, I ended up not doing the next show because my health and safety is more important. But it's like you said, you're dealing with those injuries. I should, and now I look back on it, it was just one of them things where I was not overreacting, but um, well, I can't even think of the word, but anyway, so it's just one of them things. It was a product of the situation, but you know, I'm grateful that I was still able to train. While I wasn't able to do cardio, I was still able to train and still able to do everything else I was able to do. I just couldn't put 100% into it, so I wasn't able to do the show
Yeah.
because literally, I still, it felt like somebody was stabbing me in my kneecap every time I would take a
Yeah.
step.
Yeah. It's not fun.
Um, it was. way worse than even I'll still admit. It was way, I probably should have went to the doctor.
I say
But
that all the time, and then it's
I
like, "No,
really
I'm fine
probably
now,
should have
so
went
it's
to the
okay."
doctor. But, eventually my wife was like, look, you need to fucking stop. You really need to fucking stop. And even John Jewett, my coach, was like, bro, you need to stop. And I'm hard headed as an asshole, so what it is what it is. But like you said, it's one of the things where you have to be grateful because, like you said, you can't be depressed and grateful. It's literally physically impossible, right?
Hmm.
So to round this whole thing out, what have you found as not just a female, but as a military spouse that works best for you to deal with the negative thoughts? And let's be realistic, everybody is going to have negative thoughts. It's not just a single person. It's not just, you're not alone, right? Everybody has those thoughts. But what have you found? Like I said, mine is acts of service, making sure everybody else is good. So what have you found that works best for you that maybe somebody listening hasn't tried before that could give them another avenue of approach?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think for me, really what it comes down to is when I'm going through shit, I remind myself that I've been through worse
Yeah.
and I can overcome this. One thing I like to remind myself is I'm 100%, like, I have an undefeated record on my worst days.
Yeah.
I've made it through every single shitty moment that
Yep.
I've ever faced. And I'm 30, but I was talking to my mom the other day. I've been through as much as a 6-year-old. I've been through
Yeah.
shit. And
Yeah.
she always says this thing to me. Like, we were having this conversation on Saturday where she's like, "I'm so sorry that you went through everything that you've gone through. Like, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you more." And I'm like, "Mom, no. First of all, not your fault, right? But at the end of the day, I'm grateful for everything that I've been through because it's made me the person that I am today. I wouldn't have a
Exactly.
podcast. I wouldn't have the perspective that I have. I wouldn't be able to help the people that I've helped. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to, honestly, I wouldn't be able to train the way that I train. Because
No,
I
you,
can
you wouldn't.
train, I am really fucking good at suffering because I've
Yeah.
suffered a lot in my life. So
Yeah.
I can suffer my ass off in training to make me a better athlete. But if I never went through shit in my life, then I wouldn't be able to do that. So the way that I like to look at it is, yeah, I'm gonna have shitty moments and I'm going to feel sorry for myself. I'm gonna be in the depth of it.
Oh yeah.
But what can I gain from this?
Right.
Like, sometimes I just reframe it to be like, God is gonna make me the strongest motherfucker with all this stuff
True.
he's putting me through.
Yeah. You know,
Because
and
there's always purpose in
yeah,
pain.
there is. And and it's okay to be upset.
It
It's
is.
okay to be down in the dumps and poopy pants and whatever, but deal with your bullshit and then move on. Because like you said, we are all undefeated in our worst days.
Hmm.
And and you said the perfect word that couldn't describe it any better. It's a moment. It's a
Hmm.
moment in time. Time will go on. I absolutely promise. There's a very few things in this life that are guaranteed. Time's going to move on, and we're all going to die.
My
You know?
coach has this one thing, and he's said it. I've been working with him for over 3 years, and he says it
Yeah.
all the time is no time for a bad day. We ain't got time for
Yeah.
a bad day
Yeah.
because there aren't bad days. There are bad moments within a
Yeah.
day that people deem as, oh, it was a bad day. Like, oh, I was late to work. Oh, my coffee order was wrong. Oh, this and this. So it's a bad day. No, no, no. You had a lot of incredible moments throughout the day that you're not even seeing because you had a
Right.
few bad moments. So I like to ask my clients, like, what was the best part of your day?
Yeah.
Like, at the end of every single day when you're laying your head on the pillow, ask yourself, what was the best part of my day? Because then your
Yeah.
mind starts to search for gratitude throughout the day and you have a better positive perspective towards life.
Yeah. And we talked about like your eating disorders and and how that's a consistent battle that you will always deal with, right? But I think one of my biggest issues is doomsday scenario, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, I'm
it took
there.
me a lot of time to really realize that same thing. This is just a moment, right? And there were days where something went wrong during the day, whether it's my meals were off or my timing was off or something super simple that's super stupid. I would unintentionally let it ruin my entire day. And that is something I still work on to till today. Like as of the second we're doing this, conversation in this podcast, and obviously I'm way infinitely better. I mean, something bothers me or something fucked up, I'm gonna give myself an hour max, and then we're back to normal, right?
Yeah.
Like, but my person, If she's there, obviously it's a lot different, right? And so it all of this shit is full circle, right? You have to have a ground, you have to have somebody to talk to, you have to have an outlet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, my doomsday scenarios, something as simple as missing a fucking meal timing by 30 minutes would ruin my entire day.
Mm-hmm.
How serious is that?
Yep. Yep. I like to say if it's not going to impact you 5 years from now, don't spend more than 5 minutes worrying about it.
True. So fucking true.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's probably the best way to end this podcast,
Yeah.
is going out saying there, you know, everyone matters, no matter how corny that is. Find somebody that you can reach out to, even if you're like, hey, can you be my person that I just unload on sometimes?
Yeah.
That person might say no, and that's 100% their prerogative.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody is going to say yes.
Truth.
Don't be embarrassed, because realistically, if somebody tells you no, they're kind of a shitty person and not a friend anyways. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
if I went up to somebody and said, "Hey man, I'm having a bad day. Can I just talk it out?" And they're like, "No." Wow, okay. Well, fuck you too, asshole. Maybe we shouldn't be associates anymore. But for the most part, just find somebody, but hey man, I'm having a shitty fucking day. Can I have 5 minutes? I just need to fucking talk. I just
Mm-hmm.
need a fucking hug. My buddy Josh says, kiss the homies. Kiss the fucking homies. Find that person, find somebody, no matter who it is. And if you can't find somebody, find a therapist.
Yeah.
It's okay.
There's always somebody out there, whether
There
it's somebody that
is.
you have to hire or somebody that you can just have in your circle. But I think the
Yeah.
biggest theme here is don't be ashamed of your mental health. Don't
Yep.
be ashamed if you're not okay. You're human. You're allowed to not be perfect. In fact, nobody's perfect.
No.
But don't allow yourself to stay there. Like find a
Yep.
way out.
Yep. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Once again, if anybody is ever in that position, please don't hesitate to reach out. You've seen my Instagram enough. You know what it is. I might not know you from Bobby Joe Slim down the street, but I don't care. Reach out to me and be like, hey, you got 5 minutes. I need somebody to talk to.
Hell
It is
yeah.
what it
No,
is.
same goes to me. Our both of our Instagrams will be down below in the show notes. So if you guys ever need anything, feel free to
Yep.
reach out. But other than that, go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.